Welcome. I will now call the Affordability Committee meeting to order. This meeting is being held in person and electronically in accordance with the Municipal Act. This evening, we have no public meetings, open delegations, presentations, or standing items or committee reports, so we'll move directly to item 5, referred items. There is one referred item this evening that was referred from the November 1st General Committee meeting, which is 5.1, referred by motion 23-G-257, submission from Innovative Planning Solutions on behalf of Green World Construction, Inc., reported master plan in support of community infrastructure and housing accelerated order regarding 175-199 Essa Road and 50 Wood Street. Can I have a member of the committee? I'm sorry, Councillor Harris.
Yeah, put that on the
motion
floor.
or comment? Yes.
Yeah, I have a motion. Yep. It's waiting for Renato to get settled. Sorry, I was yeah. So I have a motion as follows. Whereas the properties at 179-199 Essa Road and 50 Wood Street are in close proximity to the 400, making it a prime location for high-density residential development. And whereas the Simcoe District School Board and Simcoe Muskoka District School Board have all collectively requested approximately 4.8 hectares of development lands for future school development, and the developer has identified 2.4 hectares in their GS submission. Therefore, it be resolved that 1, staff in the development services initiate a community infrastructure housing accelerator application in accordance with the process outlined in the staff memo dated August 16th, 2023 to facilitate the approval for construction of 3,956 residential units, school blocks, parks, and the curling club for the property located at 179-199 Essa Road and 50 Wood Street, and report back to council in February 2024. And 2, that if one or both of the school boards do not exercise the option to construct a school in this development, that the land be conveyed at no cost to the city for the purpose of a park, and that land would not constitute park land dedication in context of the Planning Act. And I can speak to that. So I think one of the things that I think we all understand with this land, that it's as it approaches close to 2 decades of sitting vacant and underutilized, is that and often referred to as a gateway site for our community, that there's great interest in seeing in the broader community seeing this piece of property developed. And as residents have noted, they've seen several iterations and options and ideas come forward, only to be kind of whisked away and move into the ether. So the opportunity that exists now is to utilize this land. We know at every level there's considerable concern about housing, and we need more stock. We need stock, yesterday, not today, not tomorrow. We need it now. So it feels like this opportunity allows us to deal with some of the complexities, some of the barriers that have kept this land from being moved forward, and do this in a way that certainly manages some key elements, which is either having schools built, because we're running out of school space as well as we see the applications come through, and or park space, green space to complete a full community. So look forward to hearing the comments from other members and non-members of Affordability, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Before we put that amendment to the motion in to a vote by the committee, are there any questions from members of the committee? Mayor Nuttall.
Thank you. I almost called you your worship. That's like a demotion from chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is one of those sites that I think long-term, both the city and the community need to get right. and we had a public meeting. And I think one of the prevalent pieces of community feedback in that public meeting was the need for public space on the site. And so that piece of the proposal, I think, really did actually move forward really quite well. And so I was really happy to see that. Then the question, when you get that move to having that available open space, is, well, what actually happens? And we are in this, I think there's a bit of a quagmire, if you will, in the sense that you have the Ministry of Transportation for Ontario that has a massive interest in what happens here. The City of Barrie, the residents in the surrounding area, 2 school boards, and a developer. And so we don't actually regulate the school boards. That's not our job. When we've tried to regulate the school boards, it's resulted in students not having schools. See Ward 10 for details. Somebody could probably tell me how late that was, but I remember leaving Ward 10 as the Ward 10 councillor and it being about 2 years away. And I think it was at least another 3 or 4 after that it was completed. And so I think what actually needs to happen here is that the Ministry of Transportation, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and the Ministry of Housing, because there's a separate actual Ministry of Housing, need to get together and determine what exactly is going to happen on this location. Because if that doesn't happen, a couple of things are going to be the result. Number one, there won't be any school. It'll be what we saw, I believe, in the South End. Number two, I think that there actually is some opportunities for these school boards to be working, hand in glove with whatever goes in there. One of the things when it struck me today, when we had the letters come in, I'm not sure if everyone got to read them before the meeting tonight, but there was 2 letters that came in, one from each school board saying, well, hold on, we can do a new type of school. We can be part of the development. We don't need to be standalone. One of the thoughts I actually had is, well, why can't the school boards actually be in the same place? Like why do we need 2 separate buildings? Why do we need 2 separate properties? Whether it's inside a residential building or, in a greenfield type development, there's 6 acres that are being put up here. Why can't the 2 school boards work together on the same site using the same fields, the same yards, the same gymnasiums, the same libraries? Imagine that. You can actually save some money, use it very efficiently, use the land very efficiently, and service the area. And more than anything, educate some children, which is obviously number one. So as I've been really struggling on this since the public meeting, I believe that the right place that this needs to be dealt with is at the provincial level, because they are the ones with the levers to bring all of the folks together. And I'll be supporting the motion on the floor. And I would also just like to really hone in on one piece of Councillor Harris's motion that I think is most important for the community. And obviously, height, density, traffic, noise, those are all going to be things that we hear. I get that. I understand that. But long term, if there's a proposal that says that there's going to be a 6-acre plot of land that is for green space and green field, that needs to be protected as that, because we've seen it too many times in Ward 5 on the Deputy Mayor's own street there, where there was a school site and then the school site went and it didn't turn into a park. It was never offered to another school board. The result was it became homes, and people were sold lots based on the fact that there was going to be a school next door. Well, in this case, I think it's even more important because we have existing residents in the area who, if they look at it and go, okay, well, there's going to be a park there or a school there or both, that needs to be protected going forward. And I think that that's well done inside of this motion and well communicated to the province. So these are never easy decisions. We obviously have a lot of pressure when it comes to getting housing built. We have a lot of pressure when it comes to building up instead of building out. We heard that again recently from the Simcoe County Green Belt Coalition. Say that 5 times fast. And you know, when we're looking at this with all of the things that the province is asking us to do, they're the only ones who can actually achieve anything on this site long-term and meaningful. I think it's actually out of our jurisdiction, out of our hands. If members of council or members of committee want nothing to happen, then don't pass it to the province, because that's exactly what will happen. This will sit as is for a very, very long time, because we won't be able to we have no levers over the partners who are asking to be doing something on this site. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Nuttall, are there any other questions from members of committee? Members of council, are there any questions of other members of council in attendance? Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Chair Harris. Chair Nixon, my apologies. I'm looking at the actual writing here of the motion. I just want to clarify. It says section 1 in the middle of it. I'm going to read the whole sentence. Says to facilitate the approval for construction of 3,956 residential units. That number, my understanding was that the resubmission, that number had gone up, or am I remembering that incorrectly? So does this motion need a little clarification? No? Okay, can I direct my question at the mayor? I think he knows the answer to my question.
Absolutely.
Or staff, sorry, Mayor Nuttall. Ms. Banfield, you're up. So I guess here's my question. My understanding was that the submission for the CHIA had the residential number, the order would support the development for, here I have it, 4,054 units. Thought it was 5, but this is why we ask questions. So 4,054, and then the motion on the floor right now is 3,956. Not a huge discrepancy, but still about 100 units. I'm just wanting to get some clarity.
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councilor Morales, you're correct. You actually did identify an issue, and that's not to Councilor Harris. It was my work on this. So it is 4,054 units. The 3,956 units were in the high density blocks, but there were also 113 townhouse units, and that's what got up to the 4,054 units. So 4054.
Thank you, Chair Nixon. I thought I was being silly, but I'm glad I got it. Okay, moving on from that, that'll just be we'll take care of that. Number 2, that if the one or both, I'm not trying to get technical, but with a CHI application, right? We want to make sure even grammar and intent is correct. So that if the one or two of the school board, so that's grammatically correct. I presume, but I'm being presumptuous, that if one or both of the school boards do not exercise, I presume that's the intent. And if one of them says no, but the other one says yes, does that mean that they still, the one that said yes has the right to move forward? I want to make sure that, yeah, the grammar, we can clean it up, but that the intent is also clear. So to whoever staff member should be answering this.
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councilor Morales. So ultimately, when school boards through a draft plan identify that they want a block for a school site, that site is reserved, and then the school board may or may not exercise their option to purchase the school block. So at this point, we know 2 schools want a site, but that does not mean that both schools would exercise that right to purchase. So it's about keeping the flexibility in there. Both schools may work together, and there still may be 2 schools in the block, or there may be one, or there may be none.
Okay, perfect. And then another question, Ms. Banfield, it says here that the land in this development, that the land be conveyed at no cost to the city for the purposes of a park. Could you give me the technical definition of a park? And what I mean by that is, in the traditional sense, how most people understand it, park is just grass and swings, maybe a seat, etc. But my personal belief is that I want this to be slightly big enough that public space could be within that interpretation, especially something of this density. Green is good, but public space can also have a mezzanine area, can have a gathering area, can have more of a meridian place, but bricks kind of feel to it in complementary to the grass. So I'm wondering, what is the planning definition of a park for the purposes of that section?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councilor Morales. Again, usually through development applications, park blocks are identified. If a block is going to be for a park in a draft plan of subdivision, it's identified at the time of application. And then the use of it and the build out of it is done further through the draft plan of subdivision, through conditions and working with parks planning. So at this point, I believe Councillor Harris's intent is literally for the land, and then with the intention that it would be programmed and potentially could be programmed differently if there's a school next to it. Like I think there's just a lot of variables right now, and it's just kind of talking about earmarking the land. Rest assured, we'd find some great use for it if that's what happens.
So it's
in the
not
future.
exclusive. Park doesn't just mean
Correct.
green. Perfect. Thank you so much. And then finally, I guess I think this is kind of a question. It says here that the park, for the purposes of a park at no cost to the city, and that the land would not constitute parkland dedication in context of the Planning Act. I understand that's maybe, I'm not moving the motion, so I'm going to be presumptuous here. That just means that they still have to pay their park in lieu of cash in lieu of parkland for all these number of units. But when I see a piece of land that big and they still have to pay that in addition to the land, I'm just wondering, I'm sure there's a conversation or an intent that I'm missing here. So I'll leave the question very open-ended to whoever wants to take it.
Councilor Morales, you've been very diligent on this, so thank you. Mr. Chair, for me, I don't think it should be both. I think it should be one or the other. I don't think we can double charge. I don't think we're allowed to double charge for parkland dedication. So I think we'd actually find ourselves offside in that scenario with the municipal act. Councilor Harris, is it okay if I move some small amendments? That one, along with there was another one Councilor Morales caught on the verbiage that I think needs to say, if neither school board.
Yeah, I can reply. Yeah, I think the verbiage on the item 2 makes sense. But I was maybe just through you, Chair, if I can ask a question, Chair Nixon, to staff. Is it correct that we can ask for both? Because if we can ask for both, I'm happy to continue to ask for both the park space and it not be part of the dedication. If so, maybe that Ms. Banfield, would you have that? Who would have that answer?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Harris. This is, I think, maybe one of those things where the clerk and I were working on what the intent of the motion was. So perhaps it did get lost in translation. At the end of the day, every draft plan of subdivision needs to provide either cash in lieu of parkland in terms of a per fee or a park and a certain amount of parkland and that sort of thing. That doesn't necessarily mean if someone wants to give us more parkland that staff wouldn't evaluate that. Sometimes people want to give us land that we actually don't want. We say thank you very much, but there certainly wouldn't stop anybody from giving us more land if that's what they wanted. But in terms of if it's about the parkland dedication, then it is very, very formal in the Planning Act of what we can accept. But something over and above, staff could evaluate.
So yeah, maybe just follow up just to understand it. So if it's worded as it is now, if it doesn't change, there's more to obviously this process than tonight. Is a long way from the finish line. Would we be able to? There's nothing that stops us from having this in now as it's written versus could be corrected or changed later. Is that what I'm hearing? Or
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Harris, it would be conversations with the applicant for sure between now and when something comes back to council.
Okay, so with that, I'm and that the committee will decide, but I'm happy to leave it as is and see where this goes with the park land and the contribution. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair Nixon. I'll take the floor back. So, Mayor Nuttall, just because we went.
Yeah, because I think I'd moved an amendment on that, but I just wanted to clarify the verbiage when we say that we accept or the applicant needs to give us the parkland plus a parkland dedication. That's not a gift. That's a demand.
Mhm.
And I don't think we're allowed to demand that under the Planning Act. If the applicant wants to give us both, I'd readily accept it. And so maybe we need to have the verbiage reflect that. But if it's a demand, I think what we're actually doing is we're creating a duplicate contribution. And I also want to put this in perspective, so the value of the property in Barrie that's high density is very dear. As members of council, we've seen some of our own property values, so can't get into that because it's still confidential until whatever date it's not. But it's very expensive. My guess is that the land is more valuable than a parkland contribution. Maybe not much, but it would be more valuable in the end than 6 acres at, I don't know, $2.5 to $3 million an acre minimum. You're getting into the 15 to $20 million or something like that. And the parkland dedication, I think, is 38, roughly just under or just over $3,800, 4,000 units, that's 16 million. So we're probably $1 million shy of what even the land value would be. So anyways, I'll leave that out there.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Nixon, I just have a question out of interest and it may be concern. So the item number 2 here. So if neither school board decide to construct a school and we end up dedicating that to parkland, which I agree, we want to make sure we preserve that as green space, but where do we end up? So we've got 4,000 new residential units and then no school and no capacity for the kids that go there. Like, I'm just thinking, I don't want to get us to a position where we think, gosh, who planned this? We have an influx of families and kids and nowhere to go. So how much leverage do the school boards have here really to kind of dictate what their needs are? Because to me, I think they have quite a bit. I would be very hesitant to approve something without a school block in here, truthfully. I appreciate, Mayor Nuttall, your input saying this needs to be dealt with at the province. Could not agree more. It needs to happen. But I am just very concerned with motion number 2. I mean, I personally would have issues with approving something without a designated school area. So I don't know if it's a question, but maybe I will ask Ms. Banfield, what happens if they don't exercise the use of that land? Do we just go ahead and build and we don't have any foresight as to where a school might end up?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Hamilton, I think you've heard that both school boards do want a school there. So it's the opposite of what you're saying. Like, both school boards do want a school and they do want to be a part of that. And it's just whether or not what that looks like. So I think at the end of the day, they've asked for it. So I would expect that means that they want it. And so I don't think it's the flip. I don't think there's I can't see into the future as I'm always asked to do, but we're here and the correspondence you've received is that the school boards do want to have a school site there.
Right. So 3, but they both want 6 acres, right? So if we get to the point where they can agree to coordinate, to integrate, to share the land, and they both say, nope, we're out, either give it to us or we walk, what, again, leverage do they have for us to sort of give in and give what they need?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Hamilton. So the school board have started with their standard ask of the 6 acres and staff and the applicant have had lots of conversations with them about potentially changing their model, many things like Mayor Nuttall suggested. And so absolutely, they're at the table and they're looking for those solutions for sure. And so I think it's probably too early to kind of give any sort of the assurances that council's looking for tonight. There's lots of work that staff can go away and work on with the applicant and the school board to
Okay.
maybe give council a bit more assurances.
So given that, do we need number 2 on here? Like, we're basically saying if neither agree, we're going to make sure this becomes parkland, and we're debating whether or not that this is gifted or not. But to me, why wouldn't we just remove that all together at this point? Like, I'm just not sure the intent of number 2 then, if ultimately we wouldn't be moving forward with this if there wasn't a school on premise.
Mayor Nuttall.
I think that you always prepare for the worst case scenario, right? And the worst case scenario is neither school accepts it. And then it drops back to the developer to be able to then turn into more buildings and towers and come back with a further proposal. And for me, I look at it and go, I want to make sure that we completely cover off that if there's going to be this type of density there, which is a stretch for the city of Barrie, there's no question, right? That we need to have some green space around there. And also the respect that I believe has been shown towards the existing neighbors by putting the park there needs to be respected. Because if they buy into this and say, okay, I don't love this, I don't like it, but at least I'm gonna end up with either a school or a park, and then 6 years from now or 7 years from now or 15 years from now, it gets flipped into more buildings. I mean, I'd be ticked if I were them, right? So I think we're just covering the bases by putting that in.
That's fair. I can agree maybe to disagree on that. I think I understand you. Let's pair for the worst case scenario that neither school, but to me that shouldn't be the scenario, right? If we get to a point where there's no school, then something has to change. I don't see a development like this going forward without having a designated spot for a school to go. So I'll leave it as is though. Thanks.
Councillor Riedma.
Thank you, Chair Nixon. I have a number of questions of Ms. Banfield on this. And I guess, could you just take sort of 2 minutes and tell me what control, quotation marks, are we giving up as a city going through the CHIA process as opposed to not going through it?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Riedma. So the CHIA process really would just establish the zoning on the property. There would still be the requirement for a draft plan of subdivision to create lots. There would still be the requirement for site plan. None of those can come out of the community infrastructure and housing accelerator. So in terms of control, really, it would be what was considered in the zoning bylaw, if you will, which would be building height, setbacks, densities, those types of normal things that council considers. Subdivisions and site plans are delegated to staff, and those would be implementing applications that would come in after the zoning was established.
Just to follow up on that, in your view, does this current application conform to the official plan? We did a lot of work on the ESSA road corridor, and I was just wanted to see what you thought, what your thoughts were on that.
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Riedma, staff haven't done a full technical review. If you may recall, we did do a public meeting. We provided technical comments to the applicant. Typically, the next step would be for a resubmission. In this case, and staff would reevaluate that and would get to a recommendation report. In this case, the resubmission came with the request to have the zoning done at the provincial level through the Community Infrastructure and Housing Accelerator. Long way to say, no, we haven't evaluated it against the official plan. That being said, CHIA requests don't have to conform to local official plans. The minister has the ability to approve one of these orders for zoning that would not necessarily conform to the city's official plan.
I guess my other question would be 4,000-ish units are going to generate a fair bit of traffic, and we have one street that's connected to an existing residential street. We have another exit that is onto very close to Essa Road. So we really have one entrance from Essa Road. Do our traffic people get a chance to review the traffic and decide what can be done here?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Rietma, through the development review application, transportation planning staff did look at the submission. With respect to the CHIA, again, the land use and the density would be considered through at the ministry level, and city staff wouldn't necessarily have the same input that they would to a zoning amendment before council. That being said, the draft plan of subdivision and site plan processes are processes that looking at driveway locations, entrances, like none of those would get approved through the CHIA necessarily, just as I said, the land use. So there still would be some opportunities at some of those other implementing applications, the draft plan and the site plans, to have more feedback at the municipal staff level.
Do we get the opportunity to charge community benefits or whatever the act says at this point?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Rietma, it's my understanding that there are no fees waived, any associated fees waived through going through the CHIA process versus the traditional zoning bylaw. Many of those fees are paid for at building permit or site plan registration or draft plan registration, all processes that would remain within the city.
And there's a curling club there that has expressed some concerns. Are their interests protected in this process, or do they have input in there?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Rietma, the CHIA process that we have set up at the City of Barrie would have another open process. It would be an online kind of consultation with the revised plans and opportunities to make submissions. Staff would then take those submissions and provide them to council as part of our staff report that would come back in Q1 of 2024. And then all of those submissions would go to the minister. So any sort of feedback that we've received at the city level would be not only provided to council to take a look at, but would be forwarded on to the minister.
Thank you.
Councilor Morales.
Chair Nixon, thank you. I just want to clarify, Chair Nixon, through you to the mayor. Mayor Nuttall, I believe you put an amendment on the floor. I just want to make sure we don't forget if you had an amendment, even if you want to tweak your own amendment. I just know there's been lots of discussion and I didn't want to let that get lost in the fold.
Yeah, I think my amendment stands in terms of the parkland dedication. I don't think it's lawful to both charge and expect. If it wants to be donated, I'm totally open to accept it on behalf of the city, but I just don't think it's lawful at this point. So I'd like to leave that standing as an amendment to paragraph 2.
And does your amendment also clarify the discrepancy in the unit number?
I didn't include that. No, I only included the neither school board. So that needs to be added in still, Councillor.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Ms. Cook. Ms. Cook, do we need an amendment to the number separate from the mayor's, or can that just be housekeeping since it was already in the submission from the applicant?
Through you, Chair Nixon, I would probably like it as an amendment, just to make everything clean.
Okay, perfect. I can't do amendments because I'm on the committee. I just wanted to clarify because we kept going and
Then I'll add that to my amendment if that's okay, Mr. Chair. Sorry, is it okay if I have the floor for, yeah. I just want to qualify. I wish we had the opportunity to plan out with levers to enforce where schools are being put or not put. We do our best as a city, but it requires other levels of government or quasi levels of government, in this case, the school board, to cooperate. And we've run into problems with that in the past. I think we're getting past that as a city. I think the relationships are getting better with the school boards. But the contemplation of zoning of a property, which is what we're contemplating right now, and then setting aside sites for the school board, I don't see how we would stop the zoning of the property to wait for the school board. Because if we do, the result is that we're essentially, we as a body are giving up our regulatory ability to the school board. And the school board is an important partner at the table here, but I don't think that they should be the ones regulating planning in the city of Barrie. Either the city of Barrie should, or above us is the Ministry of Municipal Affairs that oversees planning for the province of Ontario. And so I think from where I sit, I totally hear you, Councillor Hamilton. Like, it would be nice if we could do that. It would be great if we could do that. But I don't believe the powers exist to be able to implement that. If they did, we just wouldn't have had the issue in Ward 10 that we did.
Thank you. I'll close quickly. Chair Nixon, I don't get to vote on the amendment, but in principle and spirit, I'm supportive of your amendment. Mayor Nettle, not only the clarification of the number, which is important to be consistent on numbers, that is not something we wanted, like 100 units to just be in thin air when we're doing a chia. But also for number 2, an analogy I came up with, and we all know how great my analogies are, which they're not, but that's like inviting someone to a party and saying, hey, you should bring a bottle of wine to the party, and then also charging them cover. Like, that's just, it doesn't feel right. I like your amendment. Now, again, I also like Councillor Harris's point and your point. If they voluntarily really want to do this because they want to activate the space, they want to provide X, Y, and Z, nothing stops them from doing that. And I trust both in your leadership and Councillor Harris' leadership in facilitating those discussions.
Thank you. Okay, well, we'll put your amendment to the amendment on the floor to be voted, correct? Sorry, Councillor Harris, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe just a quick comment, and thank you for that recognition as far as, is this doable? And I think part of the kind of maybe the thought is that school boards asked for 12, not 6. So, and I think going down this process, and I agree with Councillor Hamilton, hopefully this nets schools, or at least a school. And obviously if it does, then we would net the parkland contribution. So the opportunity to get more of something that we desperately need with that much development and that much density, and kind of accepting going down that path, hopefully we'll see where this goes, but an opportunity to maximize our park contribution and in lieu of schools happening to happen in this being developed here. We really want to make sure that with this property that area that backs on to Campbell Avenue and over there is as insulated as possible and is gain something positive in the green space. So yeah, we'll see where this lands, but I mean, it'd be great to maximize the green space. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Councillor Riepma.
I thank you for indulging me, Mr. Chairman. I just had one other question. Ms. Banfield, is there an opportunity through the CHIA process for the province to require the developer to actually build the buildings? This is what, the 3rd application that we've seen on this site. And I'm just a little, I just want to make sure that if this gets approved, that it actually gets built. And is there an opportunity for the province to require them to build it?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Riepma, there is not, but the difference with either minister's zoning order or a CHIA order is that the minister can rescind the order at any time, which is different than a city initiated, like a city zoning bylaw. So they can't be forced to build necessarily, but the minister could rescind the order, which would then rescind the zoning approvals.
If I can just follow that up, Mr. Chairman, is it something that we could request the minister to include in his order that it be rescinded within X period if no construction takes place?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Rietma. Certainly, as staff acts on behalf of the city of the corporation of council as it relates to these community infrastructure and housing accelerator orders. So if that's something that council would like to present to the minister, that's certainly something that staff can articulate on your behalf.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Nixon. I think we're getting a little bit far down the rabbit hole here of what this chia is actually. Like, we don't give up anything as a city. We have problems with all different directions, which it goes against everything we stand for. Like, we try to get affordable housing built. We try to get density. The delays on this property, like we talk about the school board, and I know Ms. Banfield's being very polite and professional, but the communication with the school has been horrible. They don't respond. This is the fourth application. They've never asked for schools in this property before. Then they come forward. We're just trying to green light something to get it to where it can go back to staff with the zoning, and all the ministries are in the same room. We're forcing them to actually comment on the work our great staff do. And that's what's being missed here. We don't give up anything with the chia. To the curling club, they lease property. They are on a leased property, which is being fulfilled by the developer. And that's all you can ask. Like, these people have invested in our city, and this chia is just getting answers to move forward.
Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Chair Nixon. I know this is not part of the motion right now, but I agree with Deputy Mayor Thompson. We're getting way too deep into rabbit hole, specifically to the point of can they be forced to build? Chia is about going through a process, but still almost prioritizing a piece of land. This piece of land is strategic. We need housing. We need supply in the market. We need to do it right with school and park. I would be concerned because we can get into the what ifs. What if it's 5 years, 7 years, and then the market hits a recession? The developer might not build for a year or two. So is there consideration for recessions? Is there consideration for interest rates going up? Is there consideration for building costs? Union strikes with labor, which has happened, by the way. It happened at Young Station in Ward 9, a union strike for labor. So there's a lot of what ifs, and even entertaining the idea of doing that, I think, defeats the purpose of all this hard work that the ward councillor, the mayor and deputy mayor and everybody has done on this file. So let's let it go. Staff have already told us that they'll make it a point of the discussion. I think no amendments are necessary. And to any residents that are concerned about the existing density as is, I'll leave them with this. We've had many applications on this site. It's only gotten denser. If this gets more delayed, you will get more density. If it's another decade, it will continue to get more density. Cars are getting automated, which means parking requirements will go down because they'll just move around by themselves. Density will only go up.
Thank you. So we will call a vote on the amendment to the amendment. Committee members, all in favor? Oh, sorry. Oh, that was that was a vote. I thought it was a question. I'm sorry. All in favor of the amendment to the amendment? Carries, and then we'll move to the original amendment. All in favor? Carried. I'm sorry, the original motion as amended. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We'll move on to item 6, reports of advisory committees. There is one advisory committee report to be received, which is 6.1, report of the Heritage Berry Committee dated October 24th, 2023. Can I have a member of committee put the report on the floor to be received?
I'll put the floor on the report on the floor to be received. Sorry.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of committee? Are there any questions of members of council in attendance? All in favor? Carried. Moving past reports to committee and items for discussion, as there are none, I will adjourn the meeting at 6:52 PM. General committee will begin at 7 PM. At 7:05 PM.